The many faces of Satan. For centuries, humanity has been haunted by a shadowy figure, one whose name evokes fear, rebellion, and mystery. He has been called the adversary, the accuser, the deceiver, the prince of darkness. In every corner of the world, from ancient religious texts to modern pop culture, his presence lingers, shaping myths, morals, and even the way we understand good and evil. But who is Satan really? Is he a fallen angel, cast down from heaven for his pride? A tempter, lurking in the shadows, whispering doubt into the hearts of men? A mere symbol of human wickedness? Or something far more complex, an idea that has evolved and transformed across cultures, religions, and centuries? This deep exploration uncovers the many faces of Satan, his origins, his role in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and his presence in lesser-known belief systems. We will trace his path through history, theology, literature, and philosophy, examining how a figure once seen as a servant of God became the embodiment of ultimate evil. Whether feared as the ultimate deceiver, pitied as a tragic rebel, or embraced as a symbol of defiance, one thing is certain: Satan is more than just a character in religious doctrine. He is a force that continues to shape human understanding of morality, power, and free will. Let us descend into the depths of history, myth, and belief, and uncover the true nature of Satan. Satan is one of the most enigmatic figures in religious, philosophical, and literary traditions. His identity shifts across cultures and beliefs, making him a complex and multifaceted entity. To some, he is a fallen angel who defied God, while to others, he is merely a symbolic representation of humanity's darker inclinations. From Christianity and Islam to Judaism, Zoroastrianism, and even modern secular interpretations, the concept of Satan has evolved over time, influencing theology, literature, and even societal structures. This study explores Satan's identity and role in various religions, including Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, as well as his presence in lesser-known traditions and modern thought. We will examine his theological origins, his transformation over centuries, and his portrayal in literature, philosophy, and art. Satan is not merely a religious adversary. He is also a metaphor, a cultural symbol, and even a source of ideological inspiration for certain movements. This extensive analysis aims to provide a comprehensive understanding of his influence across different domains of human thought. The biblical Satan. Satan in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, Satan is not always depicted as the embodiment of evil, but rather as an accuser or adversary. The Hebrew term ha-Satan translates to the accuser or the adversary. One of the most well-known appearances of Satan in the Old Testament occurs in the book of Job. In Job 1, Satan appears before God along with the sons of God and challenges the righteousness of Job, arguing that he is faithful only because he is blessed. God permits Satan to test Job by allowing him to suffer great misfortunes. This portrayal does not suggest Satan is entirely independent, but rather an agent acting under divine authority. Similarly, in Zechariah 3:1-2, Satan stands to accuse the high priest Joshua, and the Lord rebukes him. Here, Satan functions as a prosecutor rather than an all-powerful evil force. Satan in the New Testament. In the New Testament, Satan is depicted with a far more defined role as the ultimate enemy of God and humanity. Matthew 4:1-11, the temptation of Jesus. Satan appears as the tempter who tries to convince Jesus to misuse his divine power. Luke 10:18, Jesus says, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," reinforcing the idea of Satan as a fallen being. Revelation 12:9. Satan is identified as the great dragon who leads the whole world astray, linking him to the serpent in Genesis. These verses cement Satan's transformation from an accuser to a cosmic opponent of God, the fall of Satan. The idea of Satan as a fallen angel comes from Isaiah 14:12-15, where the phrase, "How you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning," appears. The passage originally referred to the Babylonian king, but Christian tradition later interpreted it as referring to Satan. Similarly, Ezekiel 28:12-19 speaks of a being who was once perfect but was cast down because of pride. Though it describes the king of Tyre, many theologians believe it also symbolizes Satan's fall, the war in heaven. Revelation 12:7-9 describes a great battle in heaven between Michael the archangel and Satan. Satan and his angels are defeated and cast down to the earth. This imagery has influenced much of Christian thought, inspiring countless artistic and literary depictions of the fallen angel. Satan's role in Christian theology. Satan plays a crucial role in Christian doctrine as the tempter encourages sin, as seen in Genesis 3, the fall of man. The accuser attempts to undermine human righteousness, as in Job. The prince of darkness represents evil in contrast to Christ's light. The defeated enemy. According to Revelation, he will ultimately be cast into the lake of fire. 1.4 Satan in Christian history. Early Christian views. The early church fathers, including Augustine, Origen, and Tertullian, expanded on Satan's role, linking him to heresy, sin, and deception. Medieval Christianity. During the Middle Ages, Satan became more feared, with the rise of demonology and the Inquisition. The church portrayed him as an active enemy, leading to witch trials and exorcisms. Protestant versus Catholic views. The Protestant Reformation saw different interpretations of Satan. Martin Luther described him as a deceiver, while John Calvin emphasized his role as a spiritual adversary. Satan in Christian literature and culture. Paradise Lost by John Milton. Milton's Satan is a tragic, rebellious figure who famously declares, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." This version of Satan influenced modern portrayals of rebellion and defiance. Dante's Inferno. Dante's Satan is a monstrous being trapped in ice at the lowest level of hell, symbolizing ultimate damnation. Modern depictions. From movies to literature, Satan has evolved into a complex character, sometimes even depicted as a misunderstood anti-hero. Satan in Islam. The story of Iblis in the Quran. In Islam, Satan is known as Iblis or Shaitan, and his story begins with his refusal to bow to Adam. Surah Al-Baqarah 234, Iblis refuses to prostrate before Adam, claiming he is superior because he was created from fire while Adam was created from clay. Surah Al-Araf 11-18, God curses Iblis and grants him the ability to tempt humanity until the day of judgment. The nature of Iblis. Islamic scholars debate whether Iblis was an angel or a jinn. Since angels in Islam do not have free will, many believe he was a powerful jinn who disobeyed God. The role of Satan in Islam. Satan's main goal is to mislead humans through waswasa whispers, tempting them towards sin and disbelief. He has no ultimate power but can influence those who stray from God. Satan in Judaism. The concept of Ha-Satan in the Hebrew Bible. The Jewish understanding of Satan is different from that of Christianity and Islam. In traditional Jewish thought, Satan is not an independent, rebellious entity waging war against God, but rather a servant of God who plays the role of an accuser or adversary. The Hebrew word Satan means adversary or accuser, and is used in various contexts throughout the Hebrew Bible. Satan in the Book of Job. The Book of Job provides one of the clearest references to Satan in Jewish scripture. In Job 1:6-12, Satan appears as part of the divine council, standing before God along with other celestial beings. He challenges Job's righteousness, suggesting that Job is faithful only because God has blessed him. Unlike in Christian theology, Satan in Job is not an independent force of evil, but a prosecutor acting under God's permission. His role is to test human faith, not to directly oppose God. Satan in Zechariah and Chronicles. Zechariah 3:1-2. Satan stands to accuse Joshua, the high priest, before the Lord. God rebukes him, showing that Satan's power is limited. 1 Chronicles 21:1. Satan is said to have incited King David to conduct a census, which was seen as an act of pride. However, in a parallel account in 2 Samuel 24:1, it is God himself who incites David, suggesting that Satan in this context may simply be a personification of divine judgment. These passages reinforce the idea that Satan is not a cosmic enemy of God, but rather a heavenly figure carrying out tests and challenges to human beings. The evolution of Satan in rabbinic literature. During the post-biblical period, Jewish thought about Satan evolved. The Talmud and Midrash introduce more details about his role. Yetzer hara, evil inclination. Some rabbinic teachings equate Satan with the Yetzer hara, the human tendency toward evil. In this view, Satan is not an external force, but an internal struggle within each person. The angel of death. Some texts, such as the Midrash, identify Satan with the Malach Hamavet, angel of death, further demonstrating his role as an agent of divine justice rather than a rebellious entity. The rabbinic view of Satan is more aligned with the idea of a challenge rather than an opposing force of evil. Satan in Jewish mysticism. Kabbalah. Kabbalah, the mystical tradition in Judaism, introduces a more complex view of Satan. The figure of Samael appears in Kabbalistic texts as a dark angel associated with judgment and destruction. Unlike mainstream Jewish thought, Kabbalah describes an opposing force to divine holiness. Samael and Lilith. Samael is sometimes paired with Lilith, a demonic figure from Jewish folklore. Together, they represent the dark side of creation. Qliphoth. In Kabbalistic teachings, there are opposing spiritual realms to divine holiness, called the Qliphoth, which symbolize impurity and corruption. While mainstream Judaism does not have a devil in the same way Christianity does, Kabbalistic thought introduces elements of dualism that resemble later depictions of Satan. The Jewish view of Satan compared to Christian and Islamic views. Unlike Christianity and Islam, Judaism does not see Satan as a fallen angel waging war against God. Instead, in Judaism, Satan is more of a prosecutor, tester, or symbolic force representing human struggles. In Christianity, Satan is the ruler of evil, leading a rebellion against God. In Islam, Satan Iblis is a disobedient being who seeks to mislead humanity. This difference highlights Judaism's monotheistic emphasis that no force can oppose God's sovereignty. Satan, in other religions and philosophies. Zoroastrianism and Ahriman. Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest religions, has a clear dualistic structure. The evil figure in Zoroastrian theology is Angra Mainyu Ahriman, who opposes Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of goodness. Unlike in Judaism and Christianity, where Satan is subordinate to God, Ahriman is an independent force of chaos and darkness, locked in an eternal struggle with Ahura Mazda. This dualistic influence can be seen in later Christian and Islamic descriptions of Satan. Hinduism and demonic forces. Hinduism does not have a figure identical to Satan, but it does have asuras, demons, who oppose the devas gods in an ongoing cosmic struggle. Ravana, the demon king in the Ramayana, is a powerful adversary of righteousness. Mahishasura, the buffalo demon, is defeated by the goddess Durga. These figures share similarities with Satan in that they represent ego, greed, and desire, which lead to moral and spiritual downfall. Buddhism and the concept of Mara. In Buddhism, Mara is a demon-like figure who tries to prevent Siddhartha Gautama Buddha from attaining enlightenment. Mara represents temptation, illusion, and attachment to the material world. Unlike Satan, Mara is not an eternal enemy, but rather a metaphor for the obstacles on the spiritual path. Satan in Gnostic beliefs. Gnosticism, an ancient religious movement, presents a radically different view. The demiurge, a false god who created the material world, is sometimes equated with Satan. Gnostic texts portray the physical world as a prison, with Satan-like rulers keeping souls trapped in ignorance. Satan in modern thought and culture. Satan in literature and art. Satan has been depicted in many ways across literature, film, and art. Some of the most famous portrayals include Milton's Paradise Lost. Satan is a tragic hero, embodying defiance and ambition. Goethe's Faust. Mephistopheles represents temptation and deals with humans for their souls. The Exorcist in horror films. Satan as a terrifying force of possession and chaos. The rise of Satanism and Luciferianism. In modern times, some groups have adopted Satan as a symbol. The Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, an atheistic organization that uses Satan as a metaphor for individualism and self-empowerment. Luciferianism, a belief system that venerates Lucifer as a symbol of enlightenment rather than as an evil being. These movements reinterpret Satan outside of traditional religious frameworks. Psychological and philosophical interpretations of Satan. Satan has also been analyzed in psychology and philosophy. Nietzsche and rebellion. Satan is seen as a figure of defiance against oppressive morality. Carl Jung's shadow archetype. Satan represents the darker aspects of human nature that must be integrated rather than feared. Modern psychology sees Satan not as a literal being, but as an expression of human fears and desires. Across centuries and civilizations, the figure of Satan has taken on many roles: accuser, tempter, fallen angel, ruler of hell, cosmic adversary, and even a symbol of rebellion and free will. From the biblical Ha-Satan to the fiery Iblis of Islam, from the mystical Samael of Kabbalah to the philosophical interpretations of Lucifer as a tragic anti-hero, Satan remains one of the most enduring and adaptable figures in human thought. But what does Satan ultimately represent? Is he a literal being, a force of supernatural evil battling against divine goodness? Or is he simply a reflection of humanity's own darkness, our desires, fears, and inner conflicts projected onto a mythological figure? Some see him as an eternal enemy, others as a necessary challenge to human free will, and still others as a misunderstood symbol of knowledge, independence, and defiance against tyranny. Regardless of one's belief, Satan's presence in theology, literature, art, and modern philosophy proves that he is more than just a character in ancient texts. He is an idea that evolves with each generation, each culture, and each retelling, whether feared in religious doctrine, explored in psychological theory, or embraced as a cultural icon. Satan continues to challenge the way we perceive good and evil, authority and rebellion, faith and doubt. As we conclude this journey through history, mythology, and ideology, one truth remains: Satan is not just a figure of the past, he is a reflection of human nature itself. And as long as humanity wrestles with its own morality, its temptations, and its choices, the legend of Satan will live on.